Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and today I am going to make another crossover pointy card. I've also heard this referred to as a triple point diamond card. So if you know of an official name for this style of card, drop me a comment and let me know. But I have already prepared all of my pieces. So my card is going to be a top folding 6x6 card. For the inside of my card, I am going to line it with this pearlescent, sort of a light blue. And the reason why I was double checking the measurement was because the width is exactly 6 inches, but the height I cut just shy of 6 inches, and that's allowing for that score line or the fold so that the card will fold down nicely. And the papers I'll be using today are Graphic 45's Alice's Tea Party. This is one of my favorite collections. And for this panel here, I've cut it just shy of 6 inches, although you can do whatever size mats and layers you like. I wanted a little bit more of that blue to show up, especially since this is a busier pattern paper, has a lot more going on with it. And I did ink the edges of this piece using the Graphic 45 Hybrid ink pad in Peachy Pink. Then for the front of my card, I've chosen this specialty cardstock from Tonic Studios, and I'm going to take that same peachy pink and just give it a very, very light inking all the way around. And that's mostly so that the white of the core of this paper doesn't show. I'm not going for anything super perfect here, just a nice light inking. And I'll go ahead and do that for all of my pieces. If you're not familiar with how to make the cuts for your mats and layers and your card front, they are both cut the same way. You want to identify whatever is going to be the bottom of your panel. Mark the center point of that, and then you just want to cut a line that is going from that center mark to the top corner, and that should take out this triangular wedge here. If you need a more detailed, slower tutorial on exactly how to make these cuts, I do have another tutorial video where I've made the same style of card using steampunk spells from Graphic 45, so I'll go ahead and link to that in the upper right hand corner, just in case you want to see the full tutorial on how to create this style of card. As well, I just had so much fun making that card. I decided to make this one right after, and so all of the elements I make for this card, you'll find a tutorial for that in the previous video. I didn't want this to be too redundant with that one. And I did make a mistake here, so I started to put down my my triangular pieces before putting down my pattern paper. My initial design was to line this specialty card with another layer of pattern paper, and I was so eager to start putting everything together that I completely forgot. So so you will see that I do add some pattern paper, but only to the top triangular pieces. And what I'm doing here is just adding a bit of scrap cardstock just to help level everything out a little bit, so that this top triangular piece that goes over the other triangle piece sits a little bit more level. And that way you have a slightly nicer finish, and when you go to burnish, which I like to do regardless of what type of adhesive I use, you don't get the extra little lines when you burnish across something that has multiple levels. So when I attach these triangle pieces here, one thing just as a tip to know how to position it, basically you want the 3 points of the triangle to each meet up with an edge of the card. So there you saw I kind of just tossed aside very dramatically the piece of pattern paper that was supposed to go over the that largest triangle portion of my card base. And actually it was a happy accident, because I actually think it looks better the way it is now. It's a little bit more interesting to have just that bit of more or less solid color block. So here I'm just inking the edges of the pieces that are a little bit more predominantly blue, and I'm using Graphic 45's Marine Blue to do that. And I do love making rosettes from double-sided pattern paper, because even though in my mind I pick the papers to use on one side, sometimes when I flip it over to the other side, it does give me pause, and I second guess myself a little. And sometimes it's a happy accident, and I actually prefer the side that I didn't originally intend to use. So this clock here I've assembled using some dies from the square tag and clock die set. And I took the butterfly wings from this die set. And as well, I'll be using this die set. Well, I picked it out to use the happy birthday sentiment, but at the end of the day, I actually didn't end up using happy birthday at all. So I'll link to everything in the description box below. But I really love that one die set that has all the various wings, and it's pretty cool to combine it with the clock. I actually quite like the look of that. And if you want to send a card that's sort of like a retirement or like a time flies kind of sentiment, I think those two work so perfectly together. For these smaller butterfly wings, I thought it would be really fun to add them to the paper straw that I made. And again, the rosette, the paper straw, and the crossover pointy card, there's a more detailed tutorial in my other video. But for this one, I decided to use more embellishments that come from die cuts. And all of these wings I've actually die cut twice. Once out of pattern paper from the collection, and then a second time out of just plain solid color cardstock. In this case, I used black. And that's to give them a little bit more strength and durability, because I wanted to curve these wings up a little bit to give them some dimension. And this is definitely the kind of card that you want to maybe put in a box or hand deliver. It's very, very thick, so there's no way this will go through the US Postal Service for just a stamp. And it might be best as the kind of card that you give if you already are sending a gift, for example, and you have to put that into a box anyways. So now I have a rough idea of how I want to compose this. And so again, I'm just using some scrap cardstock that I'm layering up to level things out a little bit, where I have an element that's going to cross over different layers. And that's totally optional, but I do feel like it helps to give everything a little bit of a neater finish. And when I go to glue everything down, I'm actually going to use my glue gun, which I don't often pull out for cards, but that's mostly because I don't often make cards quite this dimensional. But I made the first one out of steampunk spells and just loved the look of it, and had a lot of fun doing it. So I kind of wanted to do sort of a his and hers kind of version. And the steampunk spells seemed a little bit more on the masculine side, and with the pattern papers that I chose for from Alice's Tea Party, it skews a little bit more pink. So this is a little bit more feminine. So I'm gonna start adding and composing all of my elements, and the big areas where I like to use the hot glue gun are with this rosette, because it does have all of those mountains and valleys, and it's because it's not flat, and it's going to be kind of a heavy piece because it has the other the clock piece on top of it, and that clock is layered up multiple times as well. There's at least 4 layers of cardstock there. And so the hot glue gun is just really great because it'll just sink into all of those valleys, and you can just push it down as much as you need to get it nice and level. And the one thing to keep in mind, though, if you are using a hot glue gun, is to be careful, don't touch the glue, but also you sort of have to be a little bit fast, because the hot glue gun, for better or worse, it does dry pretty quickly, and it sets up pretty quickly. So that means that you don't have a lot of time to work with it. So you want to have a plan for where you need to apply it and have everything ready, and then go for it. And so and the reason why I caution that is because it did take me a little bit of time, and I had some areas that were a little bit bumpy because I didn't press down very evenly in those areas. So that's one thing to just be cautious or be aware of. And but it's nice because it does give you a nice strong hold, and it does set really fast. Because you could also probably use the Cloud 3D glue gel, and that would, because it's a nice gel form of glue, that would also sink into all of those nooks and crannies of the rosette, and that would work pretty well too. And you would have quite the opposite. You would have a lot of open time to work with that. But because I'm layering on so much, I really wanted every piece that I put down to kind of set so that I can keep adding on top of it, especially with these paper straws here. And I am being careful to, with the straws, attach them so that the seam or the end of the straw is face down. That way it's not visible from the top. And so here's a look at my final card. I love all of the dimension that the wings bring to it. And obviously you can't just put this in an envelope box because you just want all of that dimension to stay with those wings getting curled up. So it's definitely the kind of card where I would put it in an envelope box, but I would make sure that there was a lot of room, and maybe I put some tissue on top of it just to make sure that those wings don't get crushed and flattened. But you can see how beautifully it stands, and it's definitely a card that is worthy of being displayed, I think. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and ring that notification bell so that you can get notified whenever I post new videos to my channel. Thanks so much. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.